Work on the Fat Controller's railway had lessened as the autumn months began. Supplies were not needed as much, the amount decreasing to such a degree that at times only one freight train was needed in the day, albeit a long one. Many of the trucks that were not in use rested in the yards at Tidmouth. This was home to a large engine shed, and was where Gordon, Henry, James and visitors stayed. One morning, Gordon was being prepared for the express. He was engaged in a thorough conversation with Duck.
I'm telling you, Duck, railways are becoming very unreliable. Never running to schedule, normally late, no sense of care or accountability with the passengers nowadays.
Not necessarily, Gordon. We try to run our trains to the best of our ability. We try very hard.
Oh, of course, but I don't mean that, Duck. I was referring to the other railway. You remember the days gone by when steam was the main working force of the world? The days when an engine simply wouldn't give up? Nowadays, they just break down and refuse to work. It's...
Disgraceful?
Yes, absolutely disgraceful. We steam engines, well, we know better.
Beg pardon, Gordon. I do agree with you. But after all these years, I wouldn't be so boastful. You can't tempt fate, and accidents can always happen.
Ha! Our railway is far too well run for accidents to happen nowadays. Well, at least for me. I'm reliable.
Nonsense! Faulty whistles, ditches, diverted onto loops, domeless. You've had your fair share of mishaps.
That whistle was poorly fitted in the first place, and I was sent onto the loop by signalman's error. The dome was the wind, and the slight mishap with the turntable was because it jammed.
We all know it was your fault with that one, Gordon. You're just too pompous to admit it.
I am not! We mainline engines are experienced at pulling trains. Branch line engines like you have much to learn from our superiority.
That's rubbish! All of us work as hard as you can, and we haven't had an accident for years. Just look at Donald and Douglas for an example. Always on time, always trying their hardest.
But look at what happened when they arrived. A smashed brake van messing about with tenders, and then there was the signal box mishap.
The what?
Well, the signal box which was destroyed by Donald. Carelessness, no doubt.
That was caused by slippery rails. You're being incredibly unfair in this respect, Gordon.
And you imply you're not? Just now you were mentioning mishaps which happened years ago.
Enough, you two. You're fired up, Gordon. I want to get your tender filled and get to the station early, so I can get something to eat before we leave.
Typical. Trust me, Duck, I may have had mishaps, but that is the past. I've learned, and I would never have one now.
Meanwhile, the signalman who controlled the Tidmouth yard points was hard at work. He was new to the job, and a long morning of difficult shunting manoeuvres within the yard had caused him much confusion. With the phone call that Gordon would soon be passing, he set the point so Gordon could pass to the water column. But, as he did this, the points jammed and locked in place. The signalman tried everything, but he couldn't move them.
Oh, this is disgraceful. I'm glad Duck isn't here to see this.
What's the hold-up then?
No, nothing much. Just shunting. Oh, alright, you're clear to pass now.
Back at the signal box up the yard, the signalman was struggling to change the points. He ended up lying on the floor, panting and gasping for breath, when a horrid thought struck him.
Gordon must have passed. He'll be here any minute.
But it was a moment of realization far too late. The signalman turned his head in horror to see Gordon approaching. He waved frantically at the engine and crew, all oblivious to the approaching danger. But that was not all that worried the signalman. Gordon was gaining speed as well. By the time the driver noticed the danger, a crash was irreversible. When the smoke and dust cleared, Gordon realized that almost his entire tender had been submerged into the signal box, the roof partially collapsing over him. He felt most uncomfortable.
You miserable great engine! And you two, you silly buggers, why didn't you stop?
We didn't see you. I'm sorry.
Didn't see me? Didn't see me? Are you mad? I was waving and shouting at the top of my voice, and now we have a 460 Pacific with a tender submerged in my lovely signal box.
Well, this is most inconvenient, Gordon. You should have noticed the danger before you reached it. Your tender is badly damaged and you have upset my arrangements.
I know, sir. I'm sorry, sir.
Oh, I haven't time for this. I must now arrange for another engine to pull the express. Duck, because of the arrangements, we need another engine to pull Gordon's train, and you are the only engine available. Will you do it?
Yes, please, sir. I'll give it my best go.
That's the spirit. There are only 7 coaches today, so you should manage it quite easily. Now run along and prepare the train.
Of course, sir.
By the next morning, Gordon had been re-railed. He was to stop at the works that day for maintenance, with Duck then continuing the train to the other railway. As his normal tender had been severely damaged in the signal box incident, he was fitted with a temporary replacement for the journey. It was green and big.
Do you remember these, Gordon?
Well, it's a corridor tender, isn't it?
Yes. These tenders literally have a corridor in them. That means you can switch crews through the journey, and there's twice as much water to keep you going. Your brother, Flying Scotsman, uses one of these in England usually.
Well, it may look smart on him, but it makes me look like a crosspatch.
Cross-patch or not, you haven't got a choice. Come on, let's get to the station.
At the big station, Gordon backed down to his waiting train. The big engine looked nervously round. He felt very silly with a green tender. But, to his surprise, people gathered around to see the rare sight. Eventually, though, it was time for the train to start. With the 2 engines' efforts combined, the train began quickly.
Why have we been flagged down? This isn't a stopping passenger.
We know, but there's been trouble up the line. A brewery van's caught fire and it's raging out of control. We've evacuated everyone nearby, but we'll just have to let it burn, I'm afraid.
But surely the fire brigade can come to put it out, can't they?
A tunnel on the main road's been blocked. They're trying to get through, but with this muddy weather, there's no other way. It'll most likely have to burn to the ground by the time they get there. I'm sorry, but you'll just have to wait.
Excuse me?
Yes?
My apologies, but you see, I think I have an idea. A corridor tender's still full of water. Surely if we move farther up the line, we could try and use some to put the fire out.
It's an idea. Yeah, right. Proceed, but be careful and try your best.
Further up the line, the van was still burning dangerously. Local residents who had been evacuated from the scene had tried to put the fire out, but the quantities of water were far too little to put the blaze out. The crews of both engines jumped out to help. Gordon's fireman connected a hose and pump to Gordon's tender and rushed to assist. The water gushed out like a jet, and soon, to much relief and merry cheering, the fire had been extinguished.
Thank you. Without your help, the van would have burnt to the ground and would have damaged other things.
Don't worry about it. We're just doing our, we were just helping.
Soon the train was back on its journey, and although he still felt upset about its previous mishap, the prospect he had truly helped a great deal cheered Gordon up considerably.
Excuse me, sir, but is something wrong?
Oh no, I'm more than alright, thank you. However, I have something to say to the fine crews of these 2 locomotives, if that's alright. Greetings to all of you. I am the Chief of the Kildane Fire Service. Earlier today, we were called out to a scene of a vehicle that had caught on fire and was out of control. However, the tunnel on the way to the scene was blocked, and with no way to get there, I and my team had to try and reach the scene on foot. However, it seems we were beaten by another source. Thanks to the courageous action of the crew of the North Western Railway engines number 4 and 8, the fire was stopped with no trouble. I would wish to present you all with medals as gratitude and sign of appreciation from me and my men.
The crew and engines beamed. A small crowd of people began to gather round.
However, I would also like to give my most sincere thanks to Gordon the Blue Engine, who, as I was informed by the Kildane station master, sprouted the creative idea to which put the fire out to a relieving end. Gordon, you are a true hero, and Sir Topham Hatt sends his message that you are once again a really useful engine.
The day had been truly eventful. Bravery had been found and heroes made. And more than anything, no one could ever be happier that day than Gordon the Big Engine.